Well, hello, friends and family. It's, I guess, day 4 and 5 of my Way of St. Francis trek. Several people have asked about my two traveling companions. Kathleen and Stephanie are friends of mine from my second home in Lake Tahoe, and we've hiked together around the Tahoe Rim Trail. And actually, not just last summer, but the summer before last, I had told Kathleen that I was thinking about doing another hike, and uh, she had said that her and Stephanie were thinking about the Way of St. Francis. And I started to do some research, and my wonderful wife gave me permission to go. She said 30 days. It's actually going to end up being 32, 33 days. But, and so here we are. We're hiking now the Way of St. Francis. And so we left San Sepulcro. I'm going to have to cheat a little bit because I've got to look at my notes. So we left San Sepulcro on day 4, and it was a bit windy, but still a nice day. The prior day had been very wet and difficult. The hike the day before had been good weather, but very difficult, and this one was in rainy weather, and it was very difficult. And so but we had it was a good day. We passed through this one town. I can't remember the name of it, so I won't spend time trying to obliterate the name. But there was a house there that I don't know if the owner or a non-for-profit, I don't know how it got there, but it was a house with a miniature version of Israel, if you will. There were parts of it that were Galilee, there were parts of it that were Jerusalem, there were parts of it that were. This was a miniature, though, and then above you was a speaker that was giving out the life of Jesus, kind of centered around, if you know the rosaries, there's 4 rosaries: the glorious mysteries, the luminous mysteries. Anyway, each one of those has 5 mysteries, and kind of most of the events they were describing were one of these events in Christ's life. The issue was, as this happened, the spotlight would change on this little miniature, and the event would be described. So, for instance, when Christ was in the tomb, there would be a little miniature tomb, and there would be a little miniature stone that was kind of to the side, and you would see Christ in the tomb, and then the stone would roll. It was probably 3 inches in diameter, and then it would roll back, and Christ wouldn't be in there. So the effect was the piece would flip, and so now there wouldn't be anything in there. It's really hard to explain, but it was very fascinating. And the gentleman that was running it was so loving this miniature depiction of Christ's life. And so it was that was an interesting part of it. And then we arrived in Saturna, and it seemed like the whole town was shut down. There's this Saturna. Most of the day was very flat, and then you had this big climb up to this fortified city that was up on this hill. And when we got there, but the city was pretty well shut down. We did find a small restaurant that was opened. I had lasagna, which was one of the things that I try and eat at restaurants to see if it's as good as my wife's lasagna. By the way, this was not. And then we went on. We actually went to where we were going to stay first, and then hiked back up to Cheturna. And then they had a dinner set up for us and drove us back to Cheturna and had a very lovely dinner. And so it was at a very nice restaurant. I ordered as most of you know, I would order a nice bottle of wine. And so it was a great time. We were tired. That last hike was pretty difficult. And so I have a friend in Lake Tahoe, Frank Coughlin, who, when I was trying to decide if I was going to do the Way of St. Francis or was I going to do the Portuguese route on the Camino, I went to Frank because he's done them all. And I asked Frank which would he do? And he said, do the Way of St. Francis. The food's much better. And he's right. The food is really good. I still think I'm going to lose weight, but maybe not. And he told me then, I told him, I said, well, the guy that's kind of designing it and making our reservations has said that, it's only going to be 12, about 12 miles a day. And Frank goes, 12 miles a day on the Way of St. Francis is going to be much more difficult, or as difficult as 15, 16 miles on the Camino de Santiago. And while my sample size at this point is pretty small, 5 days, I got to admit, Frank's right. It is difficult. Each day is difficult. Today, we went from Cheturna to Città di Castello, and that's where we're here tonight at the hotel here. And it was 3 big ups and 3 big downs. And so it was, and the first 2 were extremely difficult, not long, but difficult getting up them. And then down just works on your calves and your feet, because your feet hit the front of your boots, etc. So the going down is difficult too, but it's not cardio difficult. And so the ups are very cardio difficult. You're really huffing and puffing when you're on the ups, at least I am. And so a couple of interesting events that happened today is we were walking by a vineyard where they were harvesting white wine grapes. And the guy, I kept asking, "Que cos'è vino?" So what wine do you use this? And he kept telling me. I never figured it out. I never figured out which wine he was talking about. But they went over and they cut 3 clumps of grapes and gave it to each one of us. And you were just sitting there picking off and eating these grapes. They were very sweet, but very good. And so we ate our grapes, and it was kind of fun interacting with these people that were harvesting the grapes. And it wasn't that we did it. They basically came over, "Oh, come here, and pulled off these clumps of grapes and handed it to us. And so that was fun. And then we passed by another hermitage, a retreat, if you will, of St. Francis, and it was called the Eremo Buon Riposo, so the Hermitage of Good Rest. And Francis had passed by this place twice, once as he was going from Assisi to Laverna, and there's a cave there, and that was where he meditated in this cave, and we got to see the cave that he went into, and then eventually they built a church there, and in the 1200s, and it's a beautiful. It's. I was reading one thing that said all the other churches are Disneyland. This one you can really feel God and St. Francis at. It was a beautiful. They wouldn't allow you to take pictures. They said it's too holy to take pictures in, and so you weren't allowed to take pictures. But we stopped there, and there was a guy that was the caretaker. I think his name was Andrea, I think, and it was all in Italian, and I had to really struggle to think about what he was saying, but he gave kind of a history of the place, and it was just beautiful. When you went inside, you could just feel the holiness inside of it. And he served us all espresso coffee, and so then we hiked down to Città del Castello. We did laundry. Before we did laundry, we went to lunch, and I had this giant bacon cheeseburger. It was great. And so I ate that, and then we went and did laundry and just kind of walked around. None of us were overly hungry after a late, big lunch. And so we're back in the rooms now. It's let me look. It's about 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like that. And so I'm probably gonna spend a little time doing a few things, trying to upload the video, which, by the way, last night's video, 2 days ago's video, took me a long time to upload. So I'm going to try and upload this video and post it to my website. So anyway, tomorrow we head out again, and I will check back with everybody in just a day or two. All right? See you guys.